Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. I'm Noah.
And I am Jesse.
All right, this is episode 142. I think we have a really fun and exciting lineup tonight. Tonight we are doing a Oban flight, and this is a definite flight indeed. We are going to start off by first doing the Oban 14, Oban 2023 special release, the 11 year, and the Oban Distillers edition from 2021, I think is what it says on the canister. Then we'll go into our shout outs and get it togethers, and then we'll follow it up with another flight of Oban, being the Little Bay, the 18, and then the special release from 2022, which is the 10 year, and then the Oban Game of Thrones special release, the Night's Watch. And the reason why we're splitting these up into two is because the 14, the 2023 11 year special release, and the Distillers, those have not been open. So to keep them on a level playing field, we're going to do those three together first, and then we're going to come back after we do our shout outs and get it together and do the other flights, because the Little Bay, the 18, the 2022 special release 10 year, and the Game of Thrones, the Night's Watch, those have all already been previously opened. And so we want to make sure we give them a fair shake as well against each other. And then we'll kind of do maybe a ranking of how we feel about the whole flight altogether. And then we'll go into our Smarter Challenge, which is where we were supposed to talk to or convey how much we appreciate people, and kind of see like what the reactions were, or or talk about that kind of exercise there. Before we get started and jumping in, thank you to all of our listeners on the many different podcast platforms. Thank you to all of our watchers on YouTube and Rumble. We greatly appreciate all of you. And please like, share, subscribe, and leave some comments down below. We greatly appreciate that. And if you do want to contribute to our drinking habit here and bringing these episodes to you, please feel free to click on the link down below for our Podbean Patron area, so that way you can donate anywhere from as low as $1 a month or $1 to whatever you like. So if you want to help us out, we greatly appreciate that. And let's get ready to rock and roll here.
Scotch Review.
All right. Well, you may get tired of hearing so much of our quick Oban history, but we're going to do it once again for the sake of this 7 Scotch single malt Scotch flight. Founding in the early days, Oban Distillery is located in the picturesque town of Oban on the west coast of Scotland. Has a history dating back to 1794. Was founded by brothers Hugh and John Stevenson. And it is absolutely one of the oldest distilleries in Scotland. The distillery's establishment coincided with the burgeoning demand of whiskey in the 18th century. One of the big things with all of these great Scotch distilleries, their water source. Oban draws its water from the Loch Glen Beard, a freshwater lake situated near the distillery. This water source, combined with the coastal influence, contributes to the unique character of Oban's whiskeys. And I think that is absolutely true. One of the things we love about some of our favorite Obans is the brine that you get a hint of while tasting. Some of the historical significance: Oban played a significant role in the whiskey industry, especially during the 19th century, when it served as a crucial transportation hub. The distillery's location near the harbor allowed for easy access to shipping routes, facilitating the distribution of their Scotch to various markets. Expansions and modernizations. Over the years, Oban has gone and underwent, like any of the great distilleries, expansions and renovations to keep up with demand and to modernize facilities. The addition of new stills and equipment allowed the distillery to maintain its traditional method while increasing production capacity. Oban is known for its distinctive maritime character with a balance of peat and fruitiness. The whiskeys are typically aged in a combination of American oak and European oak casks, contributing to the complexity and the depth of their flavor. As of the last update, September 2021, there is no information about a current master distiller at the Oban Distillery. However, these things that do change over time, I am sure they have master blenders. And when I say blenders, I'm not talking about a blended scotch. I'm talking about when they're pulling from their casks and coming up with their multi-flavored oaks to come up with these great scotches. And Noah's going to take it off with the visitor experience.
All right, so right now, Oban does have two different tours. They have what's called the Oban Distillery Tour. This is a complete tour of the distillery, which includes 3 drams of Oban whiskey and an insight to their whiskey manufacturing or making of the whiskey there. And this is 22 Great British pounds, so we'll probably round that up to about like 28 USD. And then there's the Taste of Oban. This is an expert. You'll have an expert guide who will talk you through a tasting of 4 different whiskeys during this in-depth tasting. And with this, I believe this one was like approximately 35 Great British pounds. So you're probably talking about pretty close to like $41, $42 right there for that. And of course, those always change with the exchange rate. So it's kind of really hard to say like what it would be when you decide to go there. Like always, you're probably going to want to go onto the website and try to schedule those tours. If you know you're going to be heading to Scotland, you probably want to do that as soon as possible, just because of the limited amount of people that they'll accept in for the tours. And I guess real quickly, should I go over like these like tasting notes that the Master of Malt guys did for the 3 that we're going to be tasting coming up?
Might as well.
Okay, so for the 2023 Oban special release, which is the Spirit of
Calypso.
The guys from Master of Malt, and I'm only we're going to do our own tasting notes here, but this is just kind of give you guys an idea because I think this sounds pretty cool. The nose, chocolate ice cream, dried mango, gingerbread, and spiced apple chutney. That's the nose, with the palate being vanilla, orange, chewy sweet, cinnamon, tropical fruit juice, finished baking spice with caramel. Now, this is a rum. This is done with rum casks, I think. And I'm sure you're going to go more into detail with that. The Distillers edition, the nose here says that it is a light sea spray with some gooseberry and white peach, along with toasted oak spice. The palate has subtle sweetness with creamy grain, more fruit, drizzles of salted caramel, and some peppery spice, finished with peppery spice builds with a green oak. And then the 14-year nose, smoky maritime nose with hints of sticking plasters of toffee brittle. Palate, smoky creamy palate with notes of marmalade, toffee apples, and pear cider. And a development of cloves comes late in the palate. Finish is a long malty finish with toasty oak and spice. So apparently from the Master of Malt guys who've already did their tasting notes, that's kind of like what they're telling us what they got out of this, but that's them. We are going to do us coming up here, and I believe we're going to try to give all 3 of these points. Is that what we decided
That's
on?
what we're going to do. First things first, I say we start with the Oban 14. Great history, much beloved Scotch. Very standard as far as the cask maturation. So they're using those 2 standard casks that Oban does use. But they're doing this for 14 years, and it is 43% ABV. Great looking canister, as they all are. Thank you, Oban, for not dismissing the importance of that. Great looking bottle, traditional, heavy tin, well done, protect the Scotch. Foil's great. Anything you want to say about the 14 before we dig in?
Honestly, I love the the coloring that they use, and usually I'm a person who doesn't like a whole lot of stuff on the canisters, like to not to be super busy. But even like because of the colors that they use, that background there on Oban is not doesn't it's busy, doesn't really draw from it. So I really like it a lot, and the coloring from the bottle of the Scotch itself has a nice dark color to it. The 14 is it's great. That's all I gotta say about that. And so far I love the packaging of the 14, but with most of Oban's stuff, I like their packaging pretty much all together.
All right, and as always, Oban does a fantastic job with the foil. We're assuming they're still going to use a solid wood topper and the real cork.
I hope so.
We're going to find out right here, right now. The foil is great, solid wood topper.
Now, is it oak or pressed oak? That's our pressed cork. It's going to be pressed cork, right? Or is it real cork?
It is pressed cork. Still great topper, though.
Is it etched in there or painted? Nothing, just
nothing too fantastic.
Are you going to pour all three first? Okay. I just want to make sure that I don't start jumping right in or anything.
All right. Okay. So that is the Oban 14 there. Next, we will jump in the Oban Distillers edition. So one thing about Oban that I do love is that there is a seagull in one way, shape, or form on every one of their canisters.
Yeah, right.
It's well done, and it's hard to see on the Distillers edition.
Is
but if you look close, they're in there.
Is it a lighter green or a darker green?
The canister, the bottle.
No, the seagull.
Oh, it's just in the actual texture.
Oh,
it's just in the backdrop, much like this, but it's hard to see unless you know to look for it.
Okay.
All right. Bottle looks absolutely fantastic, elegant, really elegant.
Does it say a cask number on there? I know you're really big about cask numbers.
So one of the things they do mention on here is that it was distilled in 2007, bottled in 2021. So it's, again, a 14-year Scotch. Interesting. And I do believe when we looked it up, this piece right here was about the cask number and how to figure out which group you got. I am not seeing any other further distinctions on the bottle or the canister there. However, much like all of them, it does have a serial number, so I'm sure if you met with them or communicated with them, they could tell you which one it was from. 43% ABV again. This one is interesting because I believe it is intentional. The bottle label is a different color than the canister, but it is so damn elegant. The foil on this one, again, solid, nice, Oban, well done, solid wood top.
Pressed cork.
Probably a pressed cork. And it is a pressed cork.
Looking at at these two bottles here, the colors almost look exactly the same from the 14 to the Distillers. Maybe the Distillers might be just a tad darker by a shade, maybe.
Right.
I don't know. You might have to put them right next to each other to
really see. Yeah. The other tricky part about that is that the labels are slightly so close.
They're very good. I'm not really sure one's really darker than the other.
Nah, they're probably the same. Which makes one curious, is this just a special 14? We know the 14 is one of their beloved scotches. All right, and now finally for the third pour. As Noah mentioned, the biggest deviation here is that it has been finished in rum cask.
Yes, and also, if I remember, this is also, it's more like a cask strength, right?
This is definitely a cask strength. It is sitting at a 58% alcohol by volume. Of course, they have the seagull up top in gold. Very colorful canister. Calypso, the soul of Calypso, as this scotch has been named. The canister is slightly larger in circumference and also slightly shorter.
Much lighter in color, too.
Yeah, this scotch which is something that we have found to be very true. This could be from the aging process, only aged 11 years, not 14. This is pale in comparison. So definitely has not drawn as much out of the cask as far as that color.
I wonder if it might have to do too with like instead of like using oak or like bourbon casks, they're using a rum cask. So maybe like the rum, maybe it's like white rum, so it's not coming in at a darker color.
Yeah,
that it's leaching from those barrels.
It is totally possible. It'll be interesting to see if it's as peaty or peatier.
Or maritime, as much maritime.
So with the first two, they have the traditional Oban emblem on the top of the foil. Here they stuck with the special release seagull as they have done on bottles in the past. Wood topper, darker in color. Pressed cork. Really is a pale in comparison color. All right, run through these three.
All right, yeah, I guess let's run through these three. Then we'll give them our flavor profiles as well as the points, which I think is going to be hard considering we're doing like three back to back to back. But we'll see how we do. And yeah, I guess on to our warp speed and cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so we're going to start our first part one of the Oban flights here. I'm going to try to keep it fairly succinct here. So we started off with the 14-year, which is a kind of a very popular Oban, and you might have even seen it in the movie The Violent Night as a Christmas gift in there. Well done for who decided to put that in there. It's an excellent Scotch. So as far as the presentation goes, I gave it a 4 out of 5 simply because of the pressed cork. If they would actually use real cork, I would have given it a 5 out of 5. I love the canister. I love the design. I love the coloring of it. I love the bottling. I love the foil. I love the wood top. It's just like the little things. Like if they did some etching on there, some like laser etching or whatever, and use a real cork, that would have been a 5 out of 5, but they didn't. The color, I love the nice dark amber color to it. I gave that a 5 out of 5. So 4 out of 5 for the presentation, 5 out of 5 for the coloring. As far as the nose, I put maritime with pear and apple. And I really enjoyed the way it was. And it wasn't like, it wasn't super complex, but it wasn't like oversimplified either. It just had really nice tonalities there, and it did what it needed to do. And I gave it a 27 out of 30. And then the palate was creamy with notes of pear and apple. And at the tail end, I got a little bit of clove there. And I gave that a 27 out of 30 as well. And the finish was clove with toasty oak, hints of malt and maritime for a 26 out of 30, which I believe, if my math is right, is 89 points. So, all right, you're 14.
All right, my 14, not too dissimilar. I'm right there with you with the presentation. So close to a 5, but not quite. So it gets a 4. For me, it's just because it's missing those few details you mentioned. The color is a 5, great medium gold color, and it's warm. It's a good warm color. Nose for me got a 26 here. Very simple. Brine and toffee with a hint of apple. The palate also got a 27 for me. Here I did get a little bit of smoke, creamy toffee apple, and cloves with a finish of pepper as it leads into the actual finish of pepper, malt, and oak. Total of 26 for that finish. So for me, the total an 88.
Okay. All right, the Distillers edition. I love the dark green or forest green or whatever kind of coloring you want to put on there with the gold. I totally dug it. I know like the label itself on the bottle versus like the canister is like maybe like a shade or two off. But that doesn't really bother me at all. Once again, what does bother me? No laser etching and depressed cork. So it gets a 4 out of 5 there. The coloring very similar to the 14 as we were talking about earlier before we started our warp speed. So that obviously got a 5 out of 5 there. The nose, I put once again maritime with biscuit, caramel, apricot, and honey. And I really enjoyed the nose on this. I gave that a 27 out of 30. The palate was smooth and creamy with hints of salted butterscotch, honey with fruit notes, which I really dug and enjoyed. So I gave that a 28 out of 30. And the finish was it began with a little bit of pepper with hints of burnt sugar and sea-soaked oak, which I gave a finish of 27 points, and that was a grand total of 91 points.
All right. Well, the Distillers for me, once again, very close and similar presentation. Right there with you. I love the color of this presentation. Just missing a couple of details. Super close to a 5. If I could see like, hey, this is batch number. If they made it really loud and clear on there, that probably would have been enough to push me over the edge. But the presentation is sitting at a solid 4. Color, almost the same as the 14. Great warm medium gold. 5. The nose got a 27 from me, and I get it's a more pronounced nose than the 14. It's got more of that maritime brine. I got the slightest little hint of peach and a little bit of oak and smoke. On the palate. The palate was creamy, and the best way I would say is this starts out creamy, and then it's like a caramel, and then it's like a salted caramel. And why I say it like that is because that creaminess transitions from creamy, not so much to salted caramel, but to creamy caramel that all of a sudden you get a dash of salt on. It is fantastic. The palate, a solid 27. It does have a little bit of pepper spice again at the finish. The finish, again, peppery spice, dry oak, and salt for a grand total of 90.
2023 special edition, 11 year. Honestly, I'm not a fan of the canister. I hate it. I really don't like it. It has, once again, for me, it has too much going on. I'm not a huge into the whole pastel colors. I get the whole spirit of Calypso, but I think if we look in his history, I think there's different Calypsos in history, right? I think we have the Greek Calypso, and honestly, I think I would have wished they would have gone with more with the Greek one, and then using the kind of more of a Greek type of color coding to it, as opposed to maybe the Jamaican or the Bahamas, whatever. To me, it's too busy, too much pastels. I'm not a big fan. So I gave that a 3 out of 5. The color, though, I like the color because the color has I don't know, it's nice and bright, very inviting in the color. You don't see too much impurities there at all. It just, I really liked it. So I still gave it a 5 out of 5. It's very, almost like a platinum blonde there for me, if you will. Now the nose is actually a really intriguing nose here. I got chocolate covered bananas with mangoes and hints of orange citrus, which I really dug. I really liked all those flavors there. The one thing I was really surprised is I didn't really get any brine or maritime or anything like that. And I was thinking since it was Oban and they're using rum cask, that maybe we get a little bit more brine in there, but I didn't really get the brine at all. The palate was light and smooth with tropical fruits and vanilla. Once again, I enjoyed that. Oh, so wait, the nose, I'm sorry, was a 27 out of 30. The palate, light and smooth with tropical fruits and vanilla. I kind of kept it really kind of basic there because honestly, I thought they did an excellent job. This is probably one of my favorite palate or like bodies, I guess, of a Scotch that I've had in a while. So I gave that a 29 out of 30. However, this is a big however. I was not a fan of the finish. At the tail end of the palate, really going into the finish, to me, this is like eating like when you're eating sushi and you dip in your sushi and you get a big glob of wasabi, whatever, and you bite into it, and all of a sudden just like you get like the super burn like at the top of your mouth that kind of burns into your like sinuses. That's kind of like what I get here. It seems like on the finisher is that they just it's overloaded with cinnamon, and it kind of gives me that same kind of like wasabi type burn. But after that mellows out, it does have a nice caramel and a fruity sweetness to it. But because of that hot spiciness from that cinnamon, it really detracts from it. Because you forget about the nose, you forget about the palate, and it kind of detracts from the finish until it finally subsides. And that by that point, at least for me, I'm like, thank God that spice is gone. So I gave the finish 25 out of 30. So that gives me a grand total of 89 points on this one.
This I find very interesting.
Why?
Because normally a Scotch like this, I think we would have scored very differently on. But here we have, as Noah mentioned, the 2023 special release, 58% ABV cask strength. I'm agreeing with you on like the canister. I actually love the colors. I don't love the art. And it's
that's what I don't like. Cause I don't know.
This is too much. Whereas this, I actually think that's perfect. I think that the label is right. But the other thing that bugs me about the canister is the art. And what I mean by that is the damn thing's not centered. Like, you have to turn it. And that just bugs me for whatever reason. Like, I don't go buying a painting and then have to turn it sideways.
Is she centered on the label? I don't think she is.
No, but on the label, you get the whole presentation because it's straight and it's flat enough that you don't have to turn the bottle to see it. Whereas with this, I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? Is that a peacock? No, it's Calypso. So for me, the presentation still gets a 4 out of 5. But I just didn't care for the art myself. I do love the colors and the label on the bottle itself. I do think Diageo is doing a nice job there. So presentation for color, I love the light gold, solid 5 for me. Nose, this was an impressive nose. However, I agree with you, it was missing the brine, and that kind of saddened me. I got the chocolate cream, mango, and cinnamon apple, or I should say cinnamon apple, because it's not really like a cinnamon apple, but it's just that hint of it. 27 for the nose. Palate, win again, right there with you. I loved this is an amazing palate. Vanilla, orange cream, cinnamon, and tropical fruit. And actually it's the tropical fruit and then cinnamon that kicks in. And that's what leads into a very long finish. For the palate, I gave it a 28. For the finish, that cinnamon lasts and lasts and lasts, and it's long to the point where it's just a hair too long for me as well. So on the finish, I as well gave it a 25 because it would have been lower even, but I did dig once the cinnamon finally subsided, that caramel sweetness with the hint of salt all over again made me want to go out and buy some salted caramels. Like, that part was great. So interestingly enough, same exact score, 89. Now, what I would say is I would take the Oban 14 to a black tie event and to game night, and it has a spot on my shelf.
I agree.
And then with the Oban, absolutely black tie.
Mean the distilleries?
The Distillers edition. Black tie, absolutely. Game night, it gets a little pricey for that. If it's a great game night, like it's something important, yes, I would then. Definitely a spot on the shelf. Now, the Oban 11 is interesting because...
So far, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. For me, there's something about it. It's not going black tie.
Oh, for me, it's not black tie at all. And it's probably not game night either.
I wouldn't mind taking it to the game night to mix something up. But again, the price point, you're talking about $150.
That's why I wouldn't take it to a good game night.
Yeah. And then a place on the shelf. Yes, but only because of that unique palette. If I want to really explain to someone a palette, this is a perfect one to pour a dram and, pull it off the shelf and like, this is an interesting palette.
For the uniqueness, I agree it has a spot on the shelf. So I agree with you 100% and straight across the board on all those, except for possibly game night on the 11.
It's time for our shout outs.
I'm going to go beyond Verstappen. Verstappen, yes, nice job, but I didn't think it was going to be a good race. The Las Vegas Formula One Grand Prix, I thought, because of the track layout being happenstance, if you will, not developed by these people who get paid literally millions of dollars to develop tracks, to have the turns and the straights and everything to make it really good and entertaining and competitive. Because of the fact that it had such long straights, but such windy turns, it was a phenomenal race. A great job to them for that. I know a lot of people in Las Vegas, the locals, were not super thrilled with all of the construction and everything else that went on. The entertainment factor, though, great job. And of course, Honda, Verstappen, Red Bull taking the W.
But my shout out really goes to you, Jesse. We didn't go to a restaurant tonight because we were going to be doing this extravagant flight here. But you did make some killer ribeyes with the mushrooms and bacon wrapped asparagus and some potatoes. So you did a killer job. So thank you very much. Total shout out to you for a wonderful dinner leading up into this this fun night.
All right, I got one more quick shout out, and that one's just going to Aiden for continuing to live a piece of his dream and continue to play basketball as a junior at Cherokee Trail. So great job making the team, Aiden.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into trying the ones that have already been opened. So we are going to start this one off here with Little Bay and the chaps from the Master of Malt. The way they say Little Bay is the nose is dried apple chips, floral herbs, and chopped mint. Candied orange and a touch of milky coffee. The palate, those fancy chocolates with flakes of sea salt, pound cake topped with demerara, sugar, and cinnamon. Citrus returns on the mid palate, finished spiced with cinnamon and ginger. Then from there, we are going to follow that up with the 18, which oddly enough, I forgot to get tasting notes for.
Delicious.
Any tasting notes on the back of that one there?
Not that I can read.
All right, so no tasting notes for the 18.
Until we get in there.
And then from there, we have the 2022 Oban special release, which is the 10-year. The nose is sweet-smelling vanilla and toffee with red cherry and cardamom. Palate lively with very spicy licorice, cardamom, cloves, orchard fruit, and highly aromatic, along with tobacco and mint. Honestly, from what I recall trying it last year, or however long ago it was, I don't remember any of those things on my palate. But I do remember like the sweet plum in there or something like that.
Yes.
So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of give what the chaps of Master of Malt were saying on there. And maybe once you start pouring, if I can find the Master of Malts online here for the 18,
yes,
I'll give that out as well.
All right, starting with the Oban Little Bay again, traditional canister. I think this tends to be one of my favorite easy drinkers, especially for the price point. Color, a nice deeper gold there. Again, solid wood top. They use good foil. Unfortunately, it is a pressed cork.
Thank you, sir.
Now we roll into the Oban 18. Definitely classy with this color canister. The nice rich gray. Again, Great gold flavor, great foil, solid wood topper. Unfortunately, once again, pressed oak.
So I'm going to go pull this one here from Scotch Noob because I don't think the guys from Master Malt did one here. For the 18, light honey, lemon peel, candied orange peel with some golden apple notes, light, bright, and sweet aroma. Palate smooth but quite dry, crisp, caramel apple, orange blossom, honey, warm notes of hard apple cider, very elegant. Finish all honey, raw, local, organic honey, long and warming is what the Scotch Noob had said about that.
All right. So good stuff all around. And finally, we are pouring the Oban 10-year special release 2022. This one titled The Celestial Blaze. Again, more of a cask strength Scotch, 57.1% ABV. Solid wood top, pressed cork.
Is there any tasting notes on that canister? I know it talks about like the Northern Lights and shit like that, but
just really emphasizes secondary maturation in ex-sherry and Amontillado seasoned casks.
okay.
All right, so here we are going with second round of this flight, numbers 4, 5, and 6.
Warp speed 2.
Cheers.
Cheers. Get the right kind of glass this time.
Scotch Review.
Starting off with Little Bay, Oban Little Bay. Once again, I'm just going to say this straight across the board for this set with the Little Bay, the 10 and the 18. I like all of the colors. I love all the canisters. I think they did a great job in their presentation. Unfortunately, they use pressed cork on all of them, so their presentation, because of the pressed cork, no etching inside the wooden toppers. I'm giving them 4 straight across the board on all their presentation. So, for me to at least give them a 5 on any one of these, they would have had to use that real cork, and they didn't. So anyways, Little Bay, the presentation, love the coloring, love the labeling, love the blue foil that they have on there, but they use pressed cork, so it gets a 4 out of 5. The color, which is kind of like what we talked about with the 14, the Distillers has that nice dark amber golden color to it, so I gave that a 5 out of 5 still. Now, for the nose, I put brine with toffee, lemon, oak, and peat, which I really enjoy the nose on this Little Bay. And it's been open for a little while, so it's been open since August 16th. I know this because you gave it to me for my birthday. So I think it still had a pretty good nose, so I gave that a 27 out of 30. The palate, I gave it a candy orange with brine, cereal, and honey, which I also enjoyed. Gave that 27 out of 30. Finish with smoky oak with hints of cinnamon, which I enjoyed. 27 out of 30 gives me a grand total of 90.
All right, well, very close once again with the Little Bay. Much like yourself, presentation gets a solid 4. Just one more detail. Any extra detail would have gotten it the 5. But the color, I'm going to go with medium dark gold. I love it. It is great. It's a 5. The nose, such an easy drinker. Brine, little hint of floral, orange, and a little lemon. 26 for me. The palate is the win, along with the finish, honestly. The palate, creamy, salted chocolate, a little bit of pound cake, cinnamon. but the cinnamon's not overpowering. And I think that's because there's a little hint of lemon that comes through and maybe cleanses the palate. But then it goes to a little bit of a ginger, back to caramel. That's salted caramel and oak. The finish of 27 overall for me, and 89.
Okay. 18. Once again, presentation, 4 out of 5. Color, 5 out of 5. Here the nose, I gave it a brine orange peel with malt, pear, ripe banana, and spiced oak. Really enjoyed the nose. Gave it a 28 out of 30. The palate, I have creamy sweetness with caramel, honey, plum, and maybe a hint of banana, or I should say ripe banana. I really enjoyed the palate as well. Gave that a 28 out of 30. Finish, malt with dark chocolate and salted caramel. 28 out of 30 gives me a total of 93.
Well, for me on the 18, not quite as high, but close. Presentation, again, one extra detail gets it to the point, but it sits at a solid 4. Color, love, again, this medium dark gold. 5 on the nose, 28. I get hints of brine, peat, banana, pear, and plum. On the palate at 27, it is an interesting palate. It is a creamy, sweet apple, cinnamon, and roasted cereal palate that transitions to a 27 for the palate, 27 on the finish also. That roasted cereal becomes more malty with, again, a salted chocolate, a piece of salted chocolate. Grand total for me, a 91.
Frames, I got the 10. Special release. 4 out of 5. I really wanted to give this a 5. I really did.
Right?
But the damn pressed cork, man. That's all they needed to do. Really wanted to give it a 5. The color, nice, light gold color. Not quite as light as the platinum blonde from the 11, but it's still really nice. Still gave it 5 out of 5. The nose. It initially started off with me right away with brine and ripe banana, but then it transitioned into a vanilla lemon, which then moved into like a red cherry and plum, which I really enjoyed that, like how it kind of transitioned from one to the other for me. I gave that a 28 out of 30. The palate, I got toasted cereal with vanilla, hints of plum and citrus. I like the flavor of that. Gave that 27 out of 30. The finish was okay for me. It had cinnamon and ginger spiciness, which I don't remember it being that spicy when we had it the first time. But that transitioned to a nice toasted malt flavor, which I gave it a 20. If I'm reading my notes here, a 26. Might be a 25. I think it was a 26. So that gives me a 90, but if it's 25, it's 89.
All right, we're going to say it's a 90. And again, I'm going to find this very interesting because our others, all the standards, 1 point off, and here I got a 90 as well. So for me, it's a little bit different, though. Even though it does have the pressed cork, and it needs that one extra detail. The detail for me on this one was the art. The art and the visual aesthetic here, the colors, everything. This is a sexy canister.
That's why I wanted to give it a 5.
Dude, I did. I gave it a 5. So this is the only one so far that gets a 5 out of 5. The Oban 10, man, this special release, the Celestial Bays, gets a 5 for me because that canister just kicks that much ass, and I love the label as well. It would have been a real easy 5 had they had a solid cork or a little extra detail. Color, a little bit lighter on the gold, so kind of like a medium light gold. Dig it, a 5. The nose. Nose is pretty simple, straightforward. Vanilla. It's a creamy vanilla, and there's cherry and toffee. And I love that because it reminds me, even though the rest of the flavor profile is completely different, of the Lagavulin Hofferman special release, the most recent one, the Charred Oak. But the palate, so for the nose 27 for me, palate, I'm right there with you with the palate. It was a little bit surprising. I didn't remember it being this spicy, if you will, but it's still got a creamy orchard fruit, so like hints of that pear, maybe a plum, a little bit of licorice, and then it goes into the hint of clove. 26 on the palate for me, but 27 on the finish. And I think I know what the difference is on the finish and why our palate and finish tastes are opposing, even though we end up with the same total score. For me, the finish is still pretty long, but it's got hints of tobacco and mint. And I dig that tobacco in the finish. It's something that is great. So overall, for me, a 90. For all three, black tie worthy. All three, even though the 18 and the 10 get pricey, man, if the people are right, game night, and all three also have a place on the shelf. If you can find the 10 in particular, and the 18 is a limited edition. It's not a mass-produced one, so it's a little bit harder to find than the Little Bay or the 14.
I concur straight across the board on that. Like they are all black tie worthy. They are all game night worthy. Although price points push the 10,
right?
outside of that mark, and they all have a place on your shelf, definitely, hands down. And these have all, I think this holds true with good scotches. These have all been open for a while, and they still held pretty well. I think I
think they've held great. The Little Bit Bay did not disappoint. None of them disappointed.
Well, and here's the thing, like. Price point wise, you get the Little Bay roughly like I think like $60, maybe 65, 70, versus the other ones coming in like over at 120 or more. Price point wise, like you're talking at 90 for me, 90 versus a 93. Is it really worth paying an extra $60 to get those 3 extra points? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. It just depends on how I'm really feeling. But I think yours is like 90 or 89.
It's 1 point difference.
Yeah, like 1 point difference. So is it really worth paying that $60 extra with the 1 point difference?
It's actually 2 points.
2
89
points?
to 91s. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 point difference. Yeah, I don't think so. I'd rather save $60 and just go to Little Bay. And that when you're looking at price point wise.
Yeah, if I'm just looking for a great dram and there's no special occasion, pretty much it's going to be the Little Bay every day. However, if it's a special occasion, maybe a holiday or truly a black tie affair like the 18 is like those extra 2 points for me, 3 points for you. It is that much creamier. The body, even though it's harder to register the flavors, they're there.
I think the 3 points and the extra $60, or in your case, an extra $60. It's the occasion that pushes it. Yes, I'll pay that extra $60 for those.
Right.
Smarter challenges.
All right, so the smarter challenge here was to basically let some peoples know how you feel. Hopefully it was in a positive light, giving a compliment. So you could choose a couple people, 1 or 2 compliments, or a handful of people with fewer compliments. Was aiming, to get a couple different variations. And I don't know if you want to shoot first. You want me to shoot first?
Well, here I'll first talk about like what I noticed, kind of like what we did last time, and I think it might have been my approach. Maybe my approach wasn't very good this time around, because I think when I was giving people or letting them know how much I appreciated them, I'm not sure I got kind of the response I was kind of like thinking I would get. And it could be because like maybe like when I told them or how I told them, it seemed like maybe I think from their point of view, like they thought I was just thanking them, and I don't know if they're just brushing it off or they weren't taking it as seriously as maybe I thought I was. And like I said, this could just been the way I approached it when I asked, or how I said it, or something like that. And so the impact that I got from your last Smarter Challenge wasn't quite the same impact I got from this Smarter Challenge. And it really wasn't about me either here. This is about complimenting them and letting them know how much I feel about them. And I'm just saying that maybe I didn't do it the right way, or convey my feelings or my gratitude the right way. Cause, to them, it just like, they're like, well, I told them, and then the way they responded was, like, yeah, not a problem. You're welcome. It's, whatever. And it just didn't seem like it impacted them like I thought maybe it could have. So I think it was just poor delivery on my part.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what was your general, like, what did you get?
Mine was mostly what I expected. But I'm also wondering, because all of mine were face to face. And I'm wondering if you did yours more over the phone.
Oh, mine were face to face.
Were they face to face? Okay. Mine were more over face to face. And with face to face, getting the reaction, I think maybe it's because I actually don't give a ton of sincere compliments unless I mean it. But I also, when I tend to do it, I try to give like examples in there so that it's not just something little. I don't know.
See, maybe that's why I said maybe it was my delivery.
Yeah. I'll throw out one of mine. Actually, I'll throw out the first two of mine. The first two of mine were to my parents. And the compliments, so to speak, 100% from the heart, face to face, looking them in the eyes, sincere. And it was just to let them each know how proud I was of them, and how grateful I was for everything they taught me. But the proud came because of that. Like, I'm so proud of you guys as parents. Like, look at all you do for me and my sisters. And what they do for me and my sisters is completely different. Like, the way they supported us throughout life, thankfully, I've been lucky enough not to need as much support, very little support, but all the support that I got from them, I got, and I took to heart when I was young. And so when I was telling them how proud I was of them, I gave them examples right back from the previous Smarter Challenge of, hey, these were pieces of advice you gave me as a kid. We just recently talked about this. You changed my life for the better, and I am so grateful for that. And I'm super proud of you guys as parents. Like, I hope you know, like, you guys are great, and I talk about you all the time. And they both lit up, and they wouldn't stop talking. Oh, we're so proud of you too, which was great to hear. Wasn't my goal, but they both like literally lit up and they glowed, which was really nice to see. And what was important to me was to let them know, because again, I do know that they're both super proud of me, but I needed them to know that I was proud of them as well.
All right, so my very first one actually came the night that you gave the Smarter Challenge, and after we got done shooting, I expressed to you how grateful I was to you for everything that you've done for me, and also for like living here and like with you and the podcast, and I know I've said it to you a few times, so maybe. It may not have come off as like, and I think this is delivery, like, right? I didn't really go and give an example or anything. I just expressed to you once again how grateful I was for your friendship and how we were able to rekindle our friendship and like that. And not that you like brushed it off or anything. I just think because I've said it a few times to you already before even that night, maybe it wasn't as impactful, maybe, or maybe you didn't realize I was using you as one of my ones. But regardless, it does mean a lot to me. Like, you contacted me to rekindle our friendship. and then everything that you've done to like help facilitate our podcast, everything you've done to help me out as well since we've rekindled our friendship. So that did mean a lot to me to let you know that, even though, like I said, I've probably said like at least 2 or 3 times previous to that point. So,
well, it definitely meant a lot, and it always means a lot. And I feel the same way, though. You do a ton as well. So thank you for the compliment. I'm sorry I didn't respond as well as I could have.
well, see, I think you responded appropriately. I think what happened was my delivery. And I probably maybe should have done it that night. Maybe it's the wrong timing because we both were a few drinks in after a podcast. So once again, I think it's partially my delivery, partially timing, and maybe not. And then here's the thing: like I don't like this type of stuff a lot of times. So it's the way I express that type of stuff. It probably just comes off not exactly right. As my brother likes to say, I'm not very tactful in the way I say things sometimes.
Yeah,
So
that's not always wrong. Well, my next one went out to my sister Lily, and I think maybe this is a different piece too. She didn't necessarily light up. She smiled. She got really happy. She didn't literally glow like my mom and dad did, but I also let her know like how proud I was of her, and how hard it is in life in general as a single parent. Because ultimately she is her 2 children's father. I believe still comes and visits them once every few years for like a weekend.
few years,
Dude, it's rough. And so I let her know how proud I was of her for that. And it's interesting though, because you talk about delivery, and I probably could have worded it a little bit differently, a little bit better. Because once again, though, you know, my parents were in the area, and that probably made her feel awkward. But yeah, she was super happy, and she needed to hear it, and it's absolutely true. I'm proud of anyone who's out there and has 2 kids that are making it. I'm sure life isn't easy for any single parent that didn't win the lottery or have a huge inheritance.
I'm sure it's not. Not anymore, not in today's day and age. As we've talked about so many times about how spending power has dropped dramatically.
Oh man, it's crazy.
All right. Basically I'm going to tie these 2 together, and I did it on Thanksgiving. And once again, I was sick over Thanksgiving, so delivery, how I said it, time wise, maybe I didn't convey how I really felt well enough. But it was to Kathy, Brian's mom, and Brian himself for making me feel like part of their family, and this really kind of went towards the fact of like they always like. There was a point in time where my mom and I had a falling out where we didn't talk for a while. So Thanksgivings and Christmases were spent over at the Moline house, at Kathy's house. And she always made sure I was there, for that stuff. And even when I moved out to Utah, there was times where Brian and Kathy really wanted me to come back to Colorado for Christmas. And as a Christmas gift, Kathy bought my plane ticket a couple times. Like I told her no, like I paid for it. And then come like Christmas Day, there was a check written out my name for the money and stuff for the ticket and stuff like that. So she has treated me like one of her son, like her son. In some aspects, and made me feel a part of the family. And so I thank them for making me feel part of the family. But here's where I think I messed up. And this is where I think you made a good point, is I didn't really give out those examples of like what she did for me during those time frames, or how like when I would come in on during Christmas break or whatever, to celebrate Christmas. Brian would let me stay at his house, and like they loaned me his like one of their vehicles to drive around to do things. So I don't think I conveyed it well enough to them, and they're both like, "Oh yeah, anytime," like they did their normal thing, like saying like, "You're welcome, we appreciate you," that type of stuff. But like I said, I don't think I conveyed the importance of it to me well enough to them, to where they probably didn't get what I was trying to say to them.
Yeah,
And Thanksgiving was probably not the right time to do this either, because there's a whole lot of other people around. And you can't do something that meaningful when there's a whole lot of other people around, and trying to keep it short and sweet, because that's like an intimate thing there when you're trying to give that kind of convey that kind of feeling or message to someone.
I think that is absolutely true. My next three were all with people I work with, and ultimately two of which I lead and one of which I don't directly lead, but also have led in the past. And I used the same piece of how I was proud of them for all of their accomplishments, for their growth, for the personal impacts each of them have made in different areas of the building. I let them know, like, hey, these are the things we talk about in our meetings, and this is how each of you, and I did it all independently, but this is how we recognize you. Like, this is how we talk about you, and I want you to know this, because you should be proud of that too. Like, I'm so proud of you as a leader here at Target, to really do great things, and that you do with your team. And ultimately, at the end of the day, one of the things I'm most proud of all three of them about is they are great people. Because you can't be a great leader in my mind without being a great person. And what I mean by that is you're going to do some hard things. You're going to have to fire people who can't show up or write them up. You're going to have to let people go. You're going to have to give hard messages. But that's actually part of what makes a great person, is someone who doesn't just celebrate the good, but someone who recognizes, hey, I'm going to tell you this that you don't want to hear, and it may ruin your day. Hell, it may ruin your week. But if I don't tell you this, I'm not doing you the justice to make you better potentially in the long run. It's feedback. You've got to hear this, take it and run with it. It's not meant to be like an attack, even though it probably feels like that in this moment.
I'm just laughing here because it just reminds me of a story between you and I. It'd be like, all right, so let's say you have an employee who's like really screwing up, and you don't know really how to tell them about what they're screwing up, but they're showing up late all the time or whatever. How would you go about saying that? Blah, 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 blah. Well, that's you.
And it was not about showing up late, and it wasn't really about me screwing up.
No, it wasn't.
It was about an old girlfriend screwing around.
On Jessie. She was the one screwing up.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think it's important for us to be proud of, as individuals. We all have codes. Yeah. And I think it's important for us to be proud of. I have never done that. I've never once done that either. And I think most people have, though, and it's just interesting.
I even like told one of my friend's girlfriends that my friend was cheating on her, just because it's code. It's my code.
It's your code.
Like, if I'm going to do it the other way, I might as well do it if I'm going to do it this way, I might as well do it that way. It's a code. I mean, a code's a code. You can't like that. You don't break your own code.
Yeah. Well, with all three of these individuals, they all again, I don't think it was the same as with my parents. That I wouldn't say any of the three glowed. And it was interesting because I think it's natural, especially when you're receiving such a compliment from someone who's your leader, is to ultimately try to redirect some of that back to the person. So they all told me the different things they appreciated about me. And I tried to finish it up like, hey, I appreciate that. And maybe this was wrong for me to do, honestly, but I appreciate that. But just take this moment. This is about you. Like, this isn't about me. I appreciate your positive feedback as well. You need to take this.
I had a mentor who talked about that. is that we have to learn how to take compliments. So much in our society in America is that when someone gives us a compliment, we have to, instead of like taking it and receiving it and taking it as that gift or whatever and internalizing it, we immediately try to give something right back right away. And that because of that, we don't take the time to really accept what's been given to us. And so that is a big thing there. So yeah, I'm just going along with what you're saying there. I probably didn't convey that well.
No, I think it's 100% true because if you can't learn to take a compliment, you're not processing it. You're not understanding that it's important that you just take it.
It feels weird at first though when you start doing that. Like when you finally because when I first learned about that and stuff like that, when I got a compliment, it felt weird not to say something back other than like, you say thank you, but then you want to say something else back to that person. But as soon as you start doing that, then all of a sudden you're starting to negate what they gave you, and so it's really weird at first to not do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an important thing to do is to learn how to receive as well as give.
Yep.
I didn't really have any others. Those were my three main ones. There's other people I wanted to contact, but I didn't want to do it via text, and I didn't really have. I mean, not that I didn't have time. Because I did have time, right? Because I took some time off for the holiday, but because of being sick, I didn't take the time to really call up people. But there are like people like my mom, like her and I, like we've had a couple really big conversations after we lost touch, and then when we started to rebuild our relationship. Where we had some of that already. And I like to think that I'm fairly good at thanking people, but obviously we can always be better at that type of stuff because we have to show appreciation to others in life. That's for sure.
I agree. Good call. And I think that, one of the pieces of advice I'm actually going to write it down and share it with people because it's one of those things that I've heard before as well. I don't think I share it enough with other people, and that is learn to take a compliment.
Oh, that's huge. It's hard though. It really is.
And I'm gonna use that, Noah. That is great advice. And I'm gonna use that and share that a lot these next couple weeks from now until Christmas.
I mean, it's a hard thing to do at first. It really is. Because I think our society is just the way we're built. We just like, someone compliments us, so we have to say something back to them. Instead of just saying thank you and just moving on.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It's like you go, like, what do I do next? I don't know. But anyways, is that it?
I think that's it for the Smarter Challenge. Do we want to pick one victor out of these 6 scotches we've tried so far and pair it up with the victor from the Game of Thrones tasting?
Well, let's see. We'll probably be pushing close to 2 hours right now. We could do it. It's up to you.
Let's do a quick one.
Okay.
All right. Which one are you thinking? The 18? The Distillers?
I don't know. Whatever. You pick it. What was your highest rated?
Man, the Open 18 got a 91, and that was my highest rated.
18 was my highest rated, so 18 versus...
All right. You still got a sip of the 18, or you want to hear more?
I think this was 18, right? That was the second
Yes.
one?
18.
I think that was 10.
And Night's Watch Now, again, the Night's Watch, if you haven't been watching us for long, you probably didn't see our series. A lot has changed on the show, what we do with the show since then. But we did do tastings and rotate through each of the scotches to figure out which was the favorite of ours for that group. So as we're finalizing now, we got the Oban's Night's Watch, the Oban 18. And we don't even have to score the Night's Watch if you don't want to. We can just go to town. Dude, that's pretty smooth for Scotch that's been sitting around for a little while.
Yeah, I'm wondering because I put it in my 10 glass if I'm getting a little bit of cinnamon from the 10 on the Night's Watch.
It would make sense that it should have a little cinnamon just because every other one does. I'm getting a lot of cinnamon.
This one actually has a lot of brine.
It has a ton of brine. It also has a ton of, is that cherry and chocolate?
Yeah, I think so.
It's like a mellowed version of the 11. Where it doesn't have too much of that spice.
So, yeah, what I'm going to say here is the quaffability, where it's just easy drinking and has great flavor. I think the Night's Watch has 18 beat, but if you want complexity, the 18 has a Night's Watch beat, in my opinion. So if you want easy drinking, I go with the Night's Watch. If I want complexity, I'm going to go with the 18.
Man, it's a tougher call than that for me. I think the 18 is absolutely a phenomenal Scotch, though. More of that body is coming out.
The Night's Watch is still great for even how long it's been open. It's been open for like almost 3 years now. Because then we do that series our very first year. Because that's when we did the Sasquatch stealing Brian.
Fucking Bigfoot.
All right. Well, while you're still tasting and coming up with what you want.
Yes.
Next week's topic is to watch the movie The Island.
I love that movie.
And the reason why I'm saying that for us to watch it is to not so much to do like a movie analysis of The Island, but to take in consideration like watching that movie and comparing it to what we now see today with like how we look. Like there's that conspiracy theory about clones and being able to like even use our own genetics to create organs and stuff like that, stem cells, right? Using stem cell technology. But here they've actually grown clones to have the organs and stuff like that. So just kind of like watch the movie. We could do maybe a slight review of it, but just kind of compare to like what's going on today and how it might evolve into the future if we see it like that could be something that could happen. Does that seem like a good idea there?
I think that's an awesome Smarter Challenge. Plus, I love that movie.
Do you own it? Hopefully you do.
I don't.
All right. We might have to work on trying to get that movie there.
Okay, we can do that.
I didn't look to see if it was on any of the multiple challenges that we have, which I talked to you about that earlier before.
Because that's Ewan McGregor and
Scarlett Johansson, I think. All right. With that, before Jesse tells us which one he's going to go with as his ultimate winner, thank you to everybody that watches us on YouTube and Rumble. We greatly appreciate all those subscribers and all those viewers. Please leave some comments down below. I know we got some recent comments on our YouTube channel, so thank you for those. Thank you for all the people who listen to us on the many different podcast platforms. The goal is to get this one out by Thursday or Friday of this week. The Thanksgiving one should be coming out later tonight. And then we'll have like other ones following in, filling in to catch us up to date. I think everyone on the different listening platforms, I think so. Please like, share, subscribe, leave comments down below. And with that, we'll have Jesse tell us what his favorite one out of the two are and close us out.
Man, I wish this Night's Watch was still available because
So do I, actually.
I think if I was to rate it, it would rate higher than the Oban if I was to sit there and take the time. Especially with the fact that it's aged and lost a little bit of its flavor profile. I love the 18.
I think if it was as young as the 18 that we have here, I think the Night's Watch would have beaten it. But
Yeah, the Night's Watch for me.
yeah, if it definitely black tie for all the, I would not take it to a game night because I'd be too selfish to.
I'd still
Spot on
take
the
it to a
shelf.
game night if I had a spare.
That's the thing. You can't get it anymore.
Right?
Well, if you can, I don't know. Maybe you can. It's hard
like
to find.
$400 or $500 a bottle now.
So, yep.
All right. Remember, life is great. That does not mean it's always going to be easy. Make sure you take some time these next few weeks as we finish and end November and get through December to share and appreciate with friends and family. And that can be if your only friend is a dog, make sure you John Wick the hell out of that dog and take care of it. So remember, do not drink and drive. Drink responsibly. And until next time... Scotchman! Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.